Alright guys, let's do some rational equations. These should be a little bit easier than adding, subtracting, by the way. So, let's get started. So guys, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure all the denominators are factored and find your common denominator. So it's just like adding, subtracting in a way. Now notice none of them really need to be factored. What is my common denominator? Well, notice how the first and third one have a 4 in them. So we got to have that in our common denominator, right? And they all have a squareds in them. So 4a squared is my common denominator, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to times all three of those expressions by that common denominator. Okay, let's see what happens here. So, if you look at the first expression right here, what's cool is 4a squared cancels out with 4a squared, and all I'm left with is 3 equals. In the middle or second expression, notice the a squareds canceled out, and I'm left with 4 times 2a plus 6. So we're going to do a little distributive property here soon. There's a minus. And what's cool in the third or last expression is 4a squareds cancel out, and I'm just left with 1. So, 3 equals, let's distribute here, 8a plus 24 minus 1. 24 minus 1 is 23, right? So how about we go ahead and minus 23. Sorry about that. We minus 23 both sides. So now 3 minus 23 is negative 20 equal to 8a. Again, 23 minus 23 is 0. So once I divide both sides by 8, this is my answer. Now I need to reduce it. If I divide by 4, I get what? Negative 5 halves. And so there's my answer, guys. Now, here's the thing that sucks. And the best way to do it, guys, and it takes a lot of practice, is learn to plug these numbers in your calculator. Okay? So I'm going to take negative 5 halves, and I'm going to plug it back in where all the a's are. I'm going to use my calculator now. And if you look, for example, as I was saying, if you look, for example, at our first expression, which I just circled in green, I'm going to put negative 5 halves right in there for a. Let's see what we get. I have 3 fraction. Notice I had to use parentheses, guys, to put all of that together. But there's my 4 times my a squared. I get 0.12 as a result. Okay? Just stay with me, guys. If you look at my middle expression, I'm going to have to plug it in there and in there. So let's do the numerator first. I'm going to do 2 times the negative 5 halves plus 6. What we're doing again, guys, is we're verifying and checking our answer, make sure it works. I get a 1, right? Now, I just did the numerator here. I need to divide by a squared. So I'm going to take my answer here, divide by the a squared. I get 0.16, right? Not done yet. We're now going to minus 1 over 4a squared from it. So notice I took my answer here, and I'm minusing 1 over, use that parentheses, 4a squared. See how these two end up the same, guys. In other words, the right side is the same as the left side. They're equal to each other. Negative 5 halves, therefore, is my correct answer. So, before you get frustrated, like, oh my God, I have to do this every time, the answer is no. What you want to do, are you listening carefully? What you really want to do, guys, is at least check for the obvious. For example, if I came up with a equals 0, is that a good answer? You hopefully will say no, because when I plug in 0, see how I'm dividing by 0. We can never divide by 0, right? So therefore, we know it doesn't work. Sorry guys, I actually got interrupted by my daughter's soccer coach there. So anyways, honestly forgot where I left off, except we just finished this equation, right? And the answer is -5/2. And the thing I want to point out, guys, is you ought to practice checking your answers right now. Since you're doing it online, right? You have extra time to do it in this case. Get used to doing your calculator work better too, because even I make mistakes when I don't use the parentheses and stuff correctly. So it's good practice. All right, let's get to another problem, and let's do it from beginning to end. So guys, first step again is we're going to factor all the denominators. Now notice this one right here, I can factor out an x, and I'm left with, of course, 3x plus 4. And this one, notice, is the same denominator, x, 3x plus 4. This, of course, is just 3x plus 4. So, does everyone agree my common denominator is going to have to be an x, because both of these have an x, and it's going to have a 3x plus 4, because all of them had a 3x plus 4. So I'm going to times by x, 3x plus 4. That is my common denominator. Okay, so let's see what happens here. In the first one, or first expression right here on the left, the x's cancel out, the 3x plus 4's cancel out. So therefore, the only thing I'm left with is x squared plus 4x minus 5. I have a plus, so that's cool. Now, the middle expression, notice, the 3x plus 4 cancels out. I'm left with x times 1, which of course is x, equal to, and then finally the last or right expression here, the x and the 3x plus 4 cancel each other out, and all I'm left with is 1. So from here, all I need to do is solve it, right? I got an x squared. I know 4 and 1 is 5x. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1 from both sides. So right there, I'm going to end up with -6 equal to 0. Because remember, guys, whenever we have a quadratic, which we do right there, you want it to equal 0 to solve it, right? And this one, why don't we solve by factoring? You could use a quadratic formula, however, but factoring is going to be quicker. I need a -6. I need a 5 in the middle. So let's see, 1 times 6 is 6, right? And 6 minus 1 is 5. So I got an x minus 1 and an x plus 6 equal to 0. And using the 0 property, I know one solution's got to be 1 and the other solution's got to be -6. So once again, let's start by checking the -6 answer. Follow the red here, guys. I plugged in -6, as you can see, into this expression right here. And I got a 7 to start out with. Now notice, I'm going to take that answer, divide, and notice how I use the parentheses here, because this is the denominator, right? I had to do, let me clean this up here a little bit. What I was doing is I plugged in -6 now here and here, right? I had to do 3 times -6 squared plus 4 times -6. And I was going to do that and divide it into x squared 4x minus 5. And so that's what I did there. So I got 0.0833. Now we're not quite done yet, because we had to take that answer and add the middle expression, right? Now check this out. The middle is plus 1 over 3x plus 4. Now remember, we're checking -6. So notice I have a plus 1 right there. Plus 1 divided by, and I did some mental math, negative 18 plus 4, because 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Now I finally get the answer of 0.0119 and so on, right? Now let's plug in the negative 6 here and here on the right side. Wrong way, sorry about that. So equals, so what I did was, of course, plugged in negative 6 right here and right here. So 1 divided by that right there. So as you can see, 1 divided by 3 times negative 6 squared plus 4 times negative 6. See how both of these, which I just circled in blue, now in green, are exactly the same. I just proved that negative 6 works. Now again, do you have to do this every time? No. But it's a good practice, good habit of checking your answers. Okay? Now, I also want to show you right down here, I want to see what I just circled in green. Let's test 1. See, if I plug in 1 in here, for example, 1 squared plus 4 times 1, 4. I just did the mental math anyways. And I end up getting a 0 plus 1 over 3 times 1, 3 plus 4, 7, right? So again, I'm just showing you that I actually went ahead and did it without a calculator, checking my answers. And of course, when I plug in 1 on the right side, I also get 1/7. So without a doubt, both of these work. If it didn't work, guys, it would be called an extraneous answer. Okay? Let's do one more here. Guys, notice this one. The denominator here is 5x. The denominator here is 5x. The denominator here is really a 1. So I'm going to times everything by, I cut myself off there as I was saying, I'm going to times everything by the common denominator, which is 5x. Let's see what happens here. 5x cancels out with 5x. All I have is 1 equal to 5x cancels out 5x, so I have that. X squared plus 2x plus 1 plus, now guys, watch and listen carefully, 5x doesn't cancel out with 1, of course. So I'm going to distribute the 5x there. So that's 5x squared minus 30x. Excuse me. So 1 equals x squared, 5x squared is 6x squared. 2x minus 30x is negative 28x plus 1. Once I minus 1 both sides, I now have 6x squared minus 28x equal to 0. And now I'm just going to divide out an x. Now guys, watch carefully. This time, one answer is x equals 0. The other answer is 6x equal to 28, right? Because I want to solve for 0. So x is 28 over 6. Dividing by 2 is 14/3. Now listen very carefully, guys. I know that 0 is extraneous. We finally got an extraneous answer. Why is it extraneous? Because when I plug in 0, follow the purple there and there, I'm dividing by 0. You're going to get a unreal answer. You can't divide by 0, right? So 0 didn't work. But if you look right here, guys, I proved by doing the 14/3 in my calculator here, it does work. So pause it here if you want to see my calculator work. But this matches plugging in 14/3 there, and there. Okay? And it works. So 14/3 is the answer. 0 is extraneous. I hope this video helped you out, guys. Sorry I got interrupted there. See you around.